No. Assalamu alaikum. We had a beautiful day in Lahore. So, a few days ago, I have made some video vlogs explaining, primarily how to really understand the dynamics of third dimension. I mean, graphically, as an economist, as somebody who is trained in quantitative economics as well, while at the same time, microeconomic theory would usually be working with two-dimensional space through graphs. I mean, the economics graphs or economic theory are mostly developed by through x-axis and y-axis, horizontal or vertical axis, or it would as well include 360 degrees space on a paper. For example, it is very common to then find the relationship between fiscal economics and monetary economics. For example, investment and savings with money supply and money demand. ISLM curve, which is called. It is built on 360 degree frame. But whereas most of the economics would be understood through graphs by using horizontal axis and vertical axis, x-axis and y-axis. But at the same time, Pareto optimality is understood through a framework which is kind of a box or rectangle where you try to find Pareto optimal points through a Pareto optimal curve, so that it could be the average median level of income for a nation state or for a group of people or for household, a single household. So as an economist who has done MSc in economics and MPhil in economics from Kaizen University and an MA and a PhD from International Institute of Social Studies Erasmus University, it's very, I'm very comfortable with then understanding and using graphs which could then, try to explain different economic theories, while at the same time it is mostly explained by finding a relationship between two variables. So here, in earlier videos, I have explained some three-dimensional frameworks with a brilliant example of a wall clock. I mean, it's a kind of a brilliant example for many reasons, because on a piece of paper, a multi-dimensional framework is not easy to then interpret and explain. Multi-dimensional poverty can be explained by drawing a circle or graphs or tangents around a circle. So that's a interesting conjecture then to understand through the needles of the wall clock that how three-dimensional space could then be understood through linear progression, which is how seconds, the relationship, finding a relationship between needles for seconds, minutes, and hours, and a clock has a framework of 12 hours. So that's a kind of a easy conjecture. But at the same time, you can express or explain something which, as I have referred to, test satellite. I mean, if I have uploaded a video of test satellite on my X account, and you would say that this L-shaped is best explained when there is a curve draw, and that curve would be either concave or convex. Now, if you understand how TESS would build or map the universe, is first it will draw a convex curve, which is 3-degree curve, because it has a certain horizon to it, which is it's not a straight convex line as we use in utility frameworks in economics. We simply draw a convex, but it is a certain framework which is kind of a tilting cone type shape. Now, what does the tilt shows? Sorry for economics. I mean, a convex will simply show that the relationship between two variables is decreasing at an increasing rate, and then it would decrease at a decreasing rate. I mean, decreasing at an increasing rate and decreasing at a decreasing rate. While at the same time, TESS will also map the upper portion of the universe through yet again building up some concave curves. That's it will build concave spatial horizons. And how to understand concave within a two-dimensional graph? It is that it is then increasing at an increasing rate and then increasing at a decreasing rate. Now, what kind of two variables could be identified in physics, especially with the example of Wall's law? Is there is time dimension and there is space dimension, and what variable of most interest would identify or help us map something? There could be force of gravity. There could be you can take help from Einstein's theory of relativity using his mathematical derivation equation. It could be understood through quantum physics. If you are also trying to understand that if the light is your main point of interest, as in economics analysis for income and or consumption and income, you basically have, or you are consuming two different products. You have marginal utility framework. So utility is something which is quite a basic framework of economics, which is a satisfaction. As you increase your consumption, your satisfaction will reduce eventually, and then it will reduce at a decreasing rate. First it will reduce at increasing, and then it will reduce at a decreasing rate. So same, if we are talking about these phenomena, physics phenomena, one is times and one is space dimension, and then within that it could be, because we identify things through light, particles of light, and so particle of light can be the main frame, and particle of light could be explained through different frameworks. Einstein's theory of gravity, and this theory of relativity. What are the forces of gravity? What do you understand about Gauss particle or dark matter? And then how it will fit in the framework, mathematical framework. And then you also have inherent understanding that why light would really bend. So now imagine how you are identifying time and space in space with a convex that light particle is traveling with, because it is not really increasing or decreasing, but it is that how light is reaching towards one end of the space to another, while at the same time it is interacting with time. So there is a relationship that it will take light will travel faster through time and through space, and then in a concave, and then it will travel faster at a decreasing rate, whereas Einstein's theory of relativity, or people refer to, is that speed of light is constant. But you need to know, yes, maybe speed of light inherently is constant, but when it interacts with different forces of physics, for example, it will interact with gravity, it will interact with spatial clouds, galactic forces of physics, which again yet would define relativity, and then inherently how starlight or galaxies lights are emitting and then traveling towards towards tests, or how that test would identify those particles of light. While as the convex would say that light is reaching to the space at a decreasing, the speed is decreasing, and then it is decreasing with a decreasing rate. That's interesting. There's four possibilities: increasing, decreasing, then increasing at an increasing rate, increasing at a decreasing rate, then decreasing, decreasing at an increasing rate, decreasing at a decreasing rate. So that's how you then identify multiple spatial dimensions and time dimensions, and that's quite interesting. That's a basic framework, and then you can understand the algorithm that would make the source code of tests would be an interesting algorithm, but would really be representing what we know latest about physics. The data through GPS, we have identified how space and time works around the solar system, or how it works near the orbit, and that's very interesting. So this is simple economics would then make me understand something which is quite complex and in physics, and then how technologies are developed. And with similar example, you can even understand tesseract, or you can even understand frameworks. Different frameworks of tesseract theoretically, while at the same time, three dimensions are really understood through understanding the physics of second and first dimension, or singularity, and definitely fourth and fifth dimension. So in mathematics, you can derive many mathematical equations, formulas, to then understand what three dimension is. Of course, we understand it, but to really understand the physics of it, just like Newton or Einstein, I mean, the movement, law of movement was always there, but could only be identified by Newtonian theories. I mean, see, Newton is such a genius. I mean, one of the most genius scientists. And similar is the case with Einstein, who would then say, to understand, spatial horizons, you have to include theory of relativity, where the speed of light can really decide relative time and space. And it is so true for especially when intergalactic, interstellar observations or physics. And while at the same time you need to understand, there is one simple difference, that tesseract or is built on three dimensions, or TESS, that light would map the universe by creating three-dimensional convex and concave frames, while at the same time they will join to first make a kind of a ball, and then it will complete a 360-degree three-dimensional framework. So three-dimensional framework is and physics of it is quite complex, and definitely it is incomplete without understanding three-dimensional spatial and time horizons that work around the galaxies and across the universe. And that would then help us then to qualitatively understand multi-dimensional aspects of cognitive intelligence. And that's what I'm saying, that through understanding social media interactions, one can then help develop a super intelligent language model, and that has been true for this ChatGPT or Microsoft Copilot. While at the same time, in 2011 I read Economist, and they say world is changed because of a 3D printer. Now, what is a 3D printer or 3D communication? What can it be? I mean, it can only be understood in a certain context, because printer, when the 200 years ago, there were complex machines which can manufacture clothing, apparel. Apparel are made in three-dimensional frames. All machines or all semi-finished goods are made in three-dimensional frames, and they have a three-dimensional construction. So the three-dimensional print, what is so different about three-dimensional printer would then be, that more understanding about spatial and time horizons, and definitely then there will be a physics involved. J. Einstein's theory of relativity would be central to it, as well as Newtonian theories would be central to understand, to then construct a three-dimensional printer, 3D printer. Why would, it says 3D printer is just here for, it's been a little bit more than a decade. Otherwise, machines have been printing or three-dimensional frames, have been printing goods, manufacture goods in many forms and in a three-dimensional space. So one needs to then understand a little bit more about three-dimensional printers. And yes, I was a professor who was then my supervisor at Ghulam Ishaq Khan Engineering University would then be working on 3D printer, and I have many opportunity to visit his laboratory, one of his labs, and then he would give presentations to delegates, international delegates. Now, yes, I'm talking about Dr. Wasim Ahmed Khan. He became pro-rector academics as well. A brilliant professor. His interests were as well, artificial intelligence, and he was, and very one of the Pakistan's best engineers with a PhD from United Kingdom. And yes, while you understand that the kind of a education style, while doing a PhD, I have a PhD from Europe, whereas Dr. Wasim Ahmed Khan had a PhD from England. While there, I have met professors and people with a PhD from Canada or United States of America. There is certain pedagogy technique and learning environment in each of these regions, but at the same time would adhere to highest quality of research and education. So this is I learned a bit because I was working with small medium enterprises, Adnan Jalil Saab, and I was without understanding the dynamics of 3D printer, that it would be it is a complex physics that would represent developing a three-dimensional printer, I would then, have a lot of detailed conversation for hours with Adnan Jalil Saab that, Pakistan can also re-establish its plastic industry, while at the same time, plastic, there could be toys, there could be utensils, there are so many, in Pakistan, in Lahore especially, there are so many shops, China shops, that sell Chinese made plastic goods for common use in a household. While at the same time, I didn't know that 3D printer is a little bit more complex and more specific, and as well as more expensive way to produce a three-dimensional frame, and any object in a three-dimensional frame. It could, in 2011, economists showed a guitar that a 3D printer can even build a three-dimensional guitar, which is so amazing. But then there is a high cost involved. Still, it is not that efficient. So, in future, there is a revolution coming in manufacturing, my friends. The manufacturing sector, there will be a revolution, because chips technology are also working with two-dimensional crystals. And with this discussion, what I have made in earlier videos, if you can understand a bit of physics, that is understood through understanding simple time and spatial horizons and how three dimensions really work, and then getting a better access to four-dimensional framework and a second-dimensional framework, would then revolutionize manufacturing techniques, maybe making them more efficient. It can even, maybe in many decades, it can even create frames that can build houses or buildings, and especially material science is also really been is quite advanced. The education, the research and development, nanoparticles are commonly developed and understood even in the universities of Pakistan. So a revolution is coming, and that is why there is such a trade policy by United States of America through the office of the President Donald Trump, is now protecting its American manufacturing sector. Then at this time, having some trade deals with across the world, renegotiating trade deals, but at the same time is very openly, candidly saying that the agenda of the White House and his administration is to significantly improve American exports. So now you can imagine. That's an interesting world which is coming into the future, especially with respect to World Trade Organization, globalization. So there is this argument that I've already discussed it, that Pakistan is in the central stage with close relationship with Europe, America, Canada, and Australia, while at the same time having a great relationship with China and East Asia. Pakistan can really create new value chains, can help global value chains by becoming part of it. Whereas, as I have mentioned, while at the same time the economics is a little bit complex. The Harvard University didn't even knew that Mark Zuckerberg would be the next billionaire and would be making metaverse, or many other universities. But what they do is that a really talented children or really talented students would be enrolled in the best universities of United States of America, and then they would create value to the business, or to legal fraternity, or to governance, or to social dynamics of United States of America, or to the politics of it. While at the same time, through entrepreneurial ventures, with significant venture capitalism, the capitalist economy, many of those graduates have funds, could finance their projects, creative projects, new projects that would redefine all spectrum of sciences. And that's what America is called land of opportunities. China is also following the same, and Europe has the same education system, same market economy, similar market economy, with a little bit of a difference of a socialist state framework. But at the same time, China or India have the similar strategies for many of the best universities and its enrollment. So Pakistan, which has a youth bulge, whereas great universities like University of Management Technology, LUMS, Superior University, University of Lahore, Beacon House University, the University of South Asia, and then there are so many public universities: Qaidam University, Punjab University, University of Faisalabad, Karachi University, Institute of Business and Administration. They're amazing universities, and more students are enrolling into these universities, and these universities are opening new campuses. So really, and there are more PhD faculty members. So Pakistan should then orient its policies, education policies, towards the new world that is emerging, especially how new manufacturing sector, especially guided by American research and development, whereby Biden's Inflation Reduction Act would give them billions of dollars of subsidies, would then create new global supply chains. And yes, my friends, there will be a new industries, new mechanisms, helped by definitely by digital world. While digital world would be expanding continuously because of the metaverse, and there could be new initiatives, while at the same time there would be a new world of how manufacturing is made more sustainably. I mean, everything, I mean, all goods are manufactured primarily through raw material. Pakistan has, Reko Dekh is